in the simplest version today of token gating, if you issue a token to your customer, that just a membership token, that I'm a member of Starbucks, then instantly, just through the simple mechanic of token gating, essentially anyone can offer benefits to the Starbucks token holder or membership holder. I think the loyalty space is fascinating. When I think of open loyalty, I've got a really simple way of looking at, essentially it's, my member can get cool stuff because you can treat them like your member. Wind forward, I don't know how long. It's not really clear whether it's 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, but it's going to be, that's what's going to occur. And this world is coming, no question. Everything will be token. Every right that you can possibly manage will be tokenized on chain, and it will be safe to exchange. That's the future. Keep experimenting, keep having fun. It's not too serious. It's not life and death stuff here, but it's super interesting. It's super fun. Experiment where you can. Be kind to everybody. Be nice. When people are trying new stuff, be nice to them. Give them a break. There's a little bit too much criticism around. There always has been in innovation, and I just applaud those that are trying,
Hello, and welcome back to the Brand Annells podcast. I'm your host, Justin Payton. It's been a long time since the last time I've spoken to everybody, and I'm really excited to be back and to welcome everybody to what is going to be season 2. I wasn't really expecting to do seasons with the podcast, but I'm really excited by it. We've got some great guests lined up. I've been busy recording a few different podcasts. I've got a bit of a backlog. Now I feel like they all need to come out, but I'm going to space them out and give people some real excitement. We've got some great people coming up for you and some real surprises along the way as well. Anyways, to keep yourself up to date with the podcast service, you can subscribe at any of your favorite podcast services. You can also subscribe to my newsletter at brandnext.substack.com. All the links are going to be in the show notes. Today, though, I'm really, really excited. We're kicking off season 2 with a fantastic guest. We're kicking off with Brent Annells from Smart Media Labs. Now, Brent is someone that I've been talking to for a long time. I've wanted to work with for a while. Haven't made that happen yet, but I'm convinced we will. Brent and his work with Smart Media Labs, they are doing some of the most exciting work in my mind in the Web3 space, particularly around kind of building open source products. So everybody should kind of get to know them and look at what they're doing, but most specifically thinking about the concept of open loyalty. Now, the big question when I say open loyalty is, what is open loyalty? What does that mean? Well, guess what? To understand, we got the best person to explain it to us. We got Brent on the show. So you got to tune in. You got to listen to what he has to say. And without further delay, let's do that. Let's welcome Brent. Hello, Brent.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks very much for having me on, Justin. It's great to chat with you. We've had many interesting chats to this point, so I'm sure this will be no different. Yeah, so I'm Brent. I'm CMO at Smart Token Labs. We make tokens smart. Basically, we're two parts to our business. We're an open source software development company, been building in Web3 since 2017, and we have 2 core products in the open source suite. One is called TokenScript, and that effectively is a tokenization infrastructure. It's based on basically creating a programmable interface for smart tokens. And the second piece of the open source kit is Alpha Wallet, which is a fully open source mobile NFT wallet used by basically a white label solution for developers and brands. So that's the building part of our business, and the sort of execution part of our business is we have a tokenization studio, an advanced tokenization studio, which enables us to partner with brands and large enterprises to do sort of like innovative stuff based on tokenization and NFTs.
Just to kind of dive into that, can you give like some examples of some of the stuff you've done in the past with brands to make that happen?
Yeah, sure. So, going back a little while, we first did a NFT ticketing experiment back in 2018 for the FIFA World Cup, very small scale with, 50 tickets, but they were fully on-chain tickets. They were NFT tickets. They lived in the wallet. There was a mechanism that created a QR code, which meant you could scan through the gate. So the people who had the tickets were able to, the tickets were on the blockchain. They were able to trade them and sell them on the secondary market if they so choose, and they could actually pull up the ticket and use it to scan to get in the gate. We did another larger scale version of that in 2020 for the UEFA Cup, 20,000 tickets. We tokenized car ownership in 2020, 2021 with a group called Karma Automotive. So we created a car ownership token, and it's a smart token, and it lives in your wallet. And it has a series of things related to the ownership token. So your insurance token, your registration token, your maintenance and servicing token. And it was an experiment with Karma Automotive to demonstrate how a car ownership token could do really two things: create a bedrock for market innovation, so the ability to rent your car in a peer-to-peer way, to lease it out and provide access to it. Then secondly, seamlessly integrate into third-party services so that when you're doing your maintenance scheduling or you want to renew your registration, you're able to do that through the smart token in your wallet.
I love it. I love it. So two things to note. Well, number one, 2018 you started. In the world of Web3, that's serious OG status right there if you're starting then. So A, congratulations, but B, now I understand why you guys are where you are in developing the kinds of use cases that are so far along and the thinking so far ahead. So that's brilliant. And number two, cars are a big passion point. I mean, not like driving them and owning them, but cars are a use case that I absolutely think just screams. And it's interesting that you sat there and identified how tokens could be used. But what I was going to chat with you about today is loyalty. And the interesting thing about cars is what you didn't say is the angle for loyalty that I see, which seems obvious to me, which is that if someone has a car ownership token and they sell that car to someone else, right now, the manufacturers, unless it's a certified used car, unless they have something to do with that sale, they're blind to those transactions and they don't know who their used car owners are. And the interesting thing would be, I would imagine if that car ownership token transferred, they still wouldn't know who the person was, but they would see the wallet transfer and they would be able to message the person and create something to say, hey, why don't you come in? We'll give you a free tune-up or whatever it is and start to create that relationship with the secondary market, for lack of a better word. Was that possible?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So it does. The issuer of the car token is going to be the car manufacturer. And then the holder of the car token is going to be the person who owns the car. And then there's a range of third-party providers that come into that ecosystem. So the insurer, the car registration, the DMV in LA, which, in California, which is we're really excited to see them, putting titles on chain. But then, people who want to get access to the car, you can, it's really the enablement. It's two things, I think. It's the creation of these new frictionless markets, which are true peer-to-peer markets, which mean me as a car owner can have tokens that enable me to, through smart contracts, lease or rent my car to other peer-to-peer without the involvement of an intermediary marketplace, and do it at a token-to-token level. And that just opens up just a range of different opportunities in terms of like me just renting my car as an example or lending it to people, but also to engage with services. So my car token on the blockchain can be always facing the market. And so insurers can meet my insurance token in the market and offer me optimized insurance policies or micro insurance because they see that I'm wanting to rent my car and make it available in the third-party market. So all of that area of innovation, I think, is fascinating. And then the second part of that is, so that's kind of like the limitless market opportunity, and then frictionless integration between Web3 and Web2. You're removing the need for me to go to the DMV and do this transaction. Even through their website, I will no longer have to log in at the DMV. My registration will be automatically updated through the token on the blockchain through smart contracts. And the removal of friction is it's the hardest thing to see a long way out, but it's oftentimes where the most benefit comes.
I think one of the challenges that we see right now in the whole Web3 space is that for the most part, there's oftentimes more friction just because the UX is sometimes quite poor because some of the wallet experiences are quite challenging for people who are, let's say, uninitiated. So that side of things. But totally, I think that when you look at it from a business use case perspective, as you say, the relationships between businesses become almost friction-free at that stage. So there's massive advantage there.
Yeah. And I think that, that if you step into the open law, the whole tech part of it, you're absolutely right. We've got a while to go. But I think, the thing that NFTs have done for us for Web3 is, really important. We started with art, we've moved to loyalty, really early stage loyalty. We've touched on identity and we're moving towards program tokens, and they're all NFTs effectively. And what's happened with art-based NFT and tradable NFTs, and a lot of people decry it, I think it's sort of Ponzi stuff and it's, trading apes and that sort of thing was kind of not real, but it created an understanding that tokens are not just cryptocurrencies and they're not just for trading. We started to move into utility. And loyalty is a big part of that. So I think the loyalty space is fascinating. When I think of open loyalty, I've got a really simple way of looking at, essentially it's, my member can get cool stuff because you can treat them like your member. And there's a fundamental limitation to that at a technology level, which has always existed in Web 2 and prior to that, which is the PII piece, so the sharing of data, and then the database integration piece. And they're two fundamental barriers to partners working together around a single customer. My background is I've done quite a bit of partnerships work, including at Uber. And, if you had Uber wanting to partner with, let's just say Capital One, as an example, a bank, and the credit card offerer wants to provide, every fourth ride free for Uber riders who don't currently have a Capital One credit card on the payment wallet. That's a really good offer, a really good benefit for Uber riders, but it's very hard to pull that off at an integration level because of the PII stuff, the data sharing and database integration. And I think tokenization, I think we're stepping into the point where tokenization is going to make it's going to remove these barriers. It's going to make it a lot simpler. So you can, just in the simplest version today of token gating, if you issue a token to your customer, that just a membership token, that I'm a member of Starbucks, then instantly, just through the simple mechanic of token gating, essentially anyone can offer benefits to the Starbucks token holder or membership holder.
So it's not just, if we go back to the Uber example in Capital One, there's a formalized partnership that's there.
Correct.
And even there, it's a struggle to make that formalized partnership work because of the restrictions on PII and data sharing. So you've got to find you've got to find ways to do that data handoff in a way where privacy is maintained. So that's the challenge. But what you're saying with open loyalty is, in actual fact, it's not just formalized partnerships, but actually anyone can just decide, what, I want to target a Starbucks customer and give them some value. So your customer, have I heard you right there?
Yeah, that's right. So, the way it starts in the Uber scenario, so there's no privacy compliant way for me as Uber to pass a data set to Capital One that says, here are my customers that have an Amex card or a Visa card or a Bank of America card. I can't do that as Uber. So therefore, all I can do is I can let Capital One address the entire Uber base. And therefore, when they've got an offer that's only for non-Capital One members, right, there's a whole lot of problems with that. So the different way of looking at that is, if Uber issues an NFT to members, to riders who look a certain way, i.e. they don't have a Capital One card, I just issue an NFT to everyone. And then it becomes user-centric. So the user makes the decision about claiming the NFT, and then the user can go and claim rewards from Capital One based on self-identifying that I'm an Uber rider and I'm eligible for one of these offers. So I think we're stepping into, so instantly you can tokenize a membership ID, and that can open the door to all of that. And you're removing the database integration piece, which is the other massive barrier. I can give you a real world example, actually, if you like.
Yeah, I'd love one.
We just did it's slightly different because it's around a conference. It's exactly the same principle. So we just stood up we did the ticketing. We were a public goods partner of the Ethereum Foundation for DevCon 6 in Bogota. So Smart Token Labs provided essentially the ticketing system, and it was at a station-based ticketing solution. And what that meant is that, and there were 6,000 developers at this Ethereum conference. It's sort of like the number one global event for Ethereum developers. It's the premium event. And so those 6,000 attendees are super high value as an audience to a certain type of organization. So VCs, other Web3 companies, Web2 companies that are looking to recruit talent, groups like Polygon, they all want to be talking to and communicating to those people. So we issued a proof of ticket ownership through an attestation to all 6,000 attendees. And so you could claim, and what you were doing in this instance was you were claiming and verifying your ticket attestation against your email address. And so what we were doing is we were linking the fact you owned a ticket to your email address. And then what that did is it made it possible for ticket holders to independently verify this proof of ticket ownership to third parties without Ethereum Foundation having to get in the middle. And so what we stood up off the back of this, this ownership of this digital asset is this thing called permissionless perks. And it was one of the first examples that I know of in a sponsorship. It's kind of like open sponsorship. So we had 25 different parties stood up offers to anybody who had one of these ticket attestations. It was like a marketplace that anyone could claim various things. So we had really cool stuff from, I mean, literally things like Polygon would give, early access to the VIP after party. We had a whole bunch of VCs that would, because these were high-end developers, were willing to do a priority review of your investment pitch. We had like mental health providers in the metaverse, providing sort of like virtual hoodies and stuff like that. We had some people like designers offering to do like free landing pages for people. So you had this marketplace, which is completely open, and anyone could offer anything to someone knowing that this piece of information about them makes them valuable to me. So it's just the same as the open loyalty thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, just an open marketplace where I can sit there and in order to capitalize on those and take up any one of those offers, I have to be able to show you, I had that ticket. I've now told you that I am the valuable customer, but it is customer initiated in that sense, at least in that example. Yeah.
I think where we're going to go is you can start with I'm a Coca-Cola customer, or I'm a Starbucks customer, or I'm an American Express customer. I can be issued an NFT that way. But you think about other types of data that would be valuable, right? I am a Reddit user and I am part of the car subreddit. I'm a passionate member of that. If I'm a consumer and I'm able to share that with Volkswagen, that's super valuable data. So when a token's generated, then I can, as a user, I can start to append data to it, these proofs of certain types of things. So one could be my email, one could be that I'm on Reddit, one could be that I'm a subreddit user of this thing that I'm posting regularly. All of that data can be attached at the token level and shared with brands, to customize offers, rewards, experiences, because it's a high value person to me.
Right. So it's not just about opening, but in that sense, it's actually even bigger, because it's not just about open loyalty in that sense. It's just an open marketplace for anything. The example you just gave, I'm sitting there like, if I'm VW, I'm just going to sit there and say, to take the example that you just gave, I'll create a marketplace for influencers around the world and passionate VW owners and say, you know what, come here, show us who you actually are, because finding the right people is sometimes hard. But giving them the option to say, actually, here's how you could create an open marketplace for almost anything in that sense.
That's exactly right. And that will happen at the token level, right? So it may well be that VW is the token issuer, right? VW is saying, look, I'm going to create the ability, I'm going to create an open API into Facebook. I'm going to use the Facebook API to surface your behavior on that. And then you can come and mint this token and you can prove to me that you're active on Facebook doing X, Y, and Z. I see that as valuable. Therefore, I'm going to create these sorts of flows for you. And I think there's so much power in that. You're starting to remove the big two in the advertising world out of the equation, with that capability.
I mean, the examples we're giving are the examples that people are going to know, obviously, right? The Starbucks, the VWs, these are the brands that obviously people are going to know. But when you look at this tech and you say, okay, this is what we're doing, let's just kind of talk about big multinational corporates versus kind of local brands, either single nation or just some smaller local brands. Do you see this offering a different level of advantage? Do you see it being like long-term? Is this tech going to be adopted by everybody, or do you see kind of a bifurcation as far as who this is going to really benefit?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately like tokenization is going to transform the world. We're all going to have wallets. The wallets are going to be like super user agents. We're going to have tokens that exist in our wallets, right? It's going to be just as seamless and familiar to us as mobile apps are today. Wind forward, I don't know how long. It's not really clear whether it's 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, but it's going to be, that's what's going to occur. And the tokens that exist in our wallet will act like reverse cookies, and users will have control over them. And they will basically capture, our preferences, our privileges, our privacy data, and we will have the ability, and everything will become much more open. In a post-cookie world, which we're already in, this will be, and we can transact from it, and we can create composable services out of it. So this world is coming, no question. I think the CEO of MasterCard said something earlier this week, everything will be token. Every right that you can possibly manage will be tokenized on-chain, and it will be safe to exchange. That's the future. I saw another data point that was, there's an estimate for what's referred to as the tokenization of the real economy that will be worth $64 trillion by 2032. And that compares with the crypto market being estimated to be $4 trillion by 2032. So it's 12 to 13x scale of opportunity that exists in the tokenization of everything that we do in the real world today. We're just really at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, we're scratching the surface. I have fun chatting with you, but at the same time, I always want to kind of have a debate. But the problem with it is I sit there and have this chat. I can see this future coming, and I'm so in agreement with you. And what I love is that you're building the early stages of the tech that's really going to make that happen. And when you look at kind of two products that you've put together right now, are there things that you're working on that are coming that you can tell us about that are going to further grease the wheels to make this possible? Are there any projects that you have that are going to be examples?
Yeah, I mean, we do lots of really interesting things. At a product level, we launched Brand Connector, which is an advanced token gating solution last year. And, that makes it really easy to bring Web3 tokens into Web2. And that's a core part of what TokenScript enables. So it's a simple NPM package that can be installed in any website. And then any website can recognize any token, any NFT, any trait of any NFT in any user wallet, and then customize content on or offers or rewards based on what they hold in their wallet. That package can be deployed in a website, but can also be deployed at the front end of a loyalty program. And that's and we've just done a Shopify integration with that. It's been downloaded. It's open source software, right? So at one level, it's available for all developers to use. It's been downloaded 10,000, we just about hit 10,000 downloads of it. So developers are using it, which is cool. There are other things that had much higher downloads of that, total downloads, but it's still a really good indication it's being used widely. And then we get involved in these projects. So we have a really interesting one coming up in sport. So we're partnered with I don't know if you're familiar with cricket.
I'm an American, so I'm familiar, but I won't say I've got an extensive familiarity. We'll leave it at that.
We'll just take it to like baseball, right? It's close to the national game in Australia and India and England. It's a massive global sport from that perspective. So we're doing something quite different with that, right? So we've got one of the top 5 players in the world, and we're creating we're doing a Web3 digital collectible membership club around this athlete. And we're doing it quite a different way, but it's got 3 core pillars to it. The pillars are it's real fans, and it's community that starts by joining this membership club, and then you own the community moving forward. So, and it's an experiment. It's totally an experiment. We're not entirely sure what the right combination of things is to do here, but it's not meant to be. So the starting point is it's priced at $19.99 AUD. And it's not designed, it can be traded because it can be minted on chain, but it's designed to be a membership pass that brings you into the community and signifies your true fandom. So really the why blockchain piece is when you mint the NFT, you're showing when you joined this club and what number member you were, and you're showing your fandom. The utility is really extensive. So it's $20 and there's 20 different pieces of utility that come with it. There's 3 different digital customizable collectibles. One at launch that when you first do it, this guy is playing his 100th game for the country and his 400th 2020 game. So there's 3 different collectibles during that. There's like a $1 million catching prize at the end of the whole thing, which builds up throughout the competition. We have about 7 different sponsors. The premier sponsors of the game are involved, and they're doing, one of them's giving away 100 signed bats. Another one's giving away 25% discounts off the merch. We have a streaming service that's providing a month free of streaming. So there's just this whole combination of things that come together in this online club where you get closer to this headline. I'm not saying the name of the cricket player because it actually doesn't launch until a few weeks later.
I'm not asking. It's okay. It's okay. You're giving us enough. This is already a great tease. Thank you.
But I think it's super interesting, right? Because our target audience is not crypto native. Our target audience is basically, we believe the audience for this is going to be like 15 to 24-year-old cricket players in Australia, and we believe it's going to be 24 to 35-year-old cricket nuts in India who go to games a lot, and the same in England. And it's not particularly easy to reach those, and it's not particularly clear that they value NFTs per se, but we think that we're making it, and you can claim the NFT through an attestation. So you can claim it with an email address. You can pay for it on a credit card. You can hold it as an attestation and then mint it later. So it's an interesting project, and it's using Brand Connector to connect your attestation, or your NFT can be used to connect you to all these sponsors and get rewards from the sponsors, and you use that through the token gating. So it's got a whole lot of different moving pieces to it that should be really interesting to see how that goes.
But it sounds like you're also attacking kind of the user experience as well, just making it as easy as possible to claim through tools that people are familiar with, right? through tools that feel every day.
That's exactly right.
I'm not a cricket fan, but I'll definitely be looking to dive in and find one when I hear about it and when I see it.
The other point is going to is there's no limit on the NFTs, right? So again, it's not about there's no speculative component with it, really. You could sell them, but we're trying to create the value in and bring them in to be part of this community. And one of the first things that we're doing is, like, we really struggled to name the community. We struggled amongst ourselves to know. We had like 10 different names, whittled it down to 3. We're just really not sure what the right one is. And so the community, one of the first things the community will do is vote on the name of the community moving forward.
So a little bit of DAO-like privileges.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I think that this is one of the big leaps that I'm seeing more and more brands make, which I really appreciate, because it's why I really fell in love with the space. It's not the speculation, but it's actually the permissioning side of things and the composability and the programmability side that becomes super exciting. Because when you look at those relationships and you start thinking about them in a programmable way, it becomes, the sky's the limit of what's actually possible.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a fan of these kind of open edition elements, right? I know that open edition right now is a trend that we're seeing in the art space as well. But what you're doing sounds even more an open edition in the utility space, which is what it should be, which is what, if you look at Starbucks, if you look at Nike, it's what I imagine. You're not going to cap how many .swoosh memberships there are, I imagine. I mean, I don't know. I'm not privy to it. They might. I'm not privy to it, but I can't imagine they would. But so this sounds super exciting. At the same time, somewhat intimidating. And so my question is really, if I'm a marketer, right, I've got, whether it's a loyalty program, whether it's just reaching my customers and trying to figure this out, do you have any advice? How do I get involved? What's a good first step to be able to think about exploring this? Like, how do I really start moving in the direction of open loyalty if I'm a marketer?
Look, I think the good news is, right, if you went back 12 months ago, just with the nature of how the NFT market has evolved, it felt like you were probably making a revenue-based play where you're going to drop an NFT, it's going to have rarity, it's going to be tradable, and you're going to live or die on what the floor price is 2 days after you've gone live and whether or not you've sold out the mint. And I think it's good that we've moved past that and we're moving much closer to further down the spectrum, right? We're still very early in the spectrum, but we're basically working out how can the issuing of an NFT, which we're typically calling a digital collectible of some type, removing the Web3 terminology, how can that get me closer to my customers? How can that engage them more directly? How can that make them feel good about the brand that they already feel good about? How can that open up rewards and experiences for them that, reward them for their fandom of the brand? And so I think if you're coming to it today, you're in that, much more likely to be in that spot. I'll give you another example, one we're doing, it's also in sport, but we're giving one of the top 20 global football clubs, you will be familiar with the football clubs, the ability for existing fans to take an ape and dress it up in club colors, and they're giving that to the fans for free. And so you can take an ape and you customize it in different jerseys, and then you mint it. And it's a fully on-chain derivative of an ape, which is quite well known, but it's pimped out in your club colors and it's yours and it's for free. And I think this is, a lot of what's coming is that's kind of the model, right? You should be, the other one I just gave an example, we put a price on it because there's just 20 different things that have costs associated with them. But in this case, it's an engagement mechanism, it's a fandom mechanism, and it's delivered to them for free. And then you're going to look to go on a journey with them and see, what impact that has. And one of the things we're doing in that case, and some other sporting cases, is now they've got the NFT connects back to token gated discounts and offers from the sponsors. So you kind of got this ecosystem play. Again, you're trying to solve an age-old problem in sports sponsorship, which is, what's the ROI for the sponsor? Well, now I'm giving my top customers a free NFT that's cool, that they like, and the utility is it links me directly back to the sponsor's site so I can get discounted offers. And so I'm closing a loop, which has never really been closed before.
Which is super high value to everybody. All of a sudden, that sponsorship starts to become less of it'll still be an investment, but all of a sudden you can start to look at how it's monetized, how the investment monetizes itself in an entirely different way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I just got a really interesting brief, this week from, one of the most recognized, bottlers in the world. they fully get it, right? This whole open loyalty thing. And so what they're trying to do, the brief is, we have an X 100,000 partner network, restaurants and other they're basically small businesses, right? And we've got our customers. How can we basically create an open loyalty network where my customers, which they aren't direct customers, you don't have an account with the bottler, but you're a fan. They've issued a whole range of NFT-based things to show fandom. How can that connect me to my partner network? It's a B2B, it's a C play, which gives my customers access to cool stuff in this massive network, which then also creates, a return for my B2B network that's never existed before. There's a loop in between. So I think this is where we're headed, and this sort of stuff is super interesting.
This is where creative business is going to be done. I'm super excited for what you're building right now. I think the opportunities are endless, as you say, and I think the consumer play to me is the obvious one, but I think the interesting side is that we're just not only at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what the use cases we think of are, but we're also at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you just described, which is just business innovation and recrafting the business relationships that can exist between partners. So super, super exciting times.
Another thought as you were saying that, but I worked in telco for a while. I ran the advertising business for the biggest telco in Australia for about 5 years. And, and they had a loyalty program. It was called Thanks. And it's just like every other loyalty program. There's a bunch of benefits, movies, TVs, free coffees. It's all a cost burden on the business. It's not like the airlines and the credit card companies, right, where they sell points. There's a whole revenue driver. So it's a cost burden to the business. Telcos are a great example where they've got retail consumers that they're trying to create these loyalty programs for, but they have a massive SME base. They have a massive enterprise base. If they created an open loyalty innovation that linked the retail to their own customer base of enterprises or small to medium-sized businesses, just like the bottler's doing, right? It's the perfect way to create innovation.
100%. And I think that's a great note to leave people on. Get them excited, see where the business cases are. And I'd say to everybody, if you're looking to innovate in this space, look at Smart Token Labs, because clearly they are building some of the more innovative elements that are happening here. I look forward to what you guys are going to do in the future. Brent, thank you so much. Do you have any kind of last imparting words of wisdom you want to give people?
No, I just really appreciate being on, mate. It's a great space. I think my last word of wisdom is, keep experimenting, keep having fun. It's not too serious. It's not life and death stuff here, but it's super interesting. It's super fun. Experiment where you can. Be kind to everybody. Be nice. When people are trying new stuff, be nice to them. Give them a break. There's a little bit too much criticism around. There always has been in innovation, and I just applaud those that are trying,
I think we can all agree with that. People expect, we've lived in a world where when something goes public, it's got to be bulletproof and perfect and seamless, etc. And this is a space where people are innovating in public. Innovation in public deserves a lot of respect. So kudos to everybody. But thank you very much, Brent. I really appreciate your time today. And can't wait to see this cricket NFT that you've got coming, this cricket membership. Who knows, you might even get me into the sport. Thanks so much.
Great to be on. Thank you.
Thank you for joining, everyone. That was Brent Annells from Smart Media Labs, who spoke to us about Web3 loyalty, and in particular about what open loyalty holds in store for us and what the future of open loyalty is going to be. Are you excited by it? I know I am. I'm really busy thinking right now about all the brands that I work with every day and where I can start to apply these concepts going forward. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about. Please leave them in the show notes. Be sure to respond. Anyways, I thank you for joining today. It was the first of what's going to be season 2 and a first of some very exciting guests. So you've been listening to the Brand Next podcast. I'm talking to the builders, the innovators, and the leaders who are scaling Web3, metaverse, and emerging channel technology, and working to ensure that it really delivers on the positive potential that it has to offer all of us. If you enjoyed listening to today's show, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can help me out by leaving a 5-star review. It does great things for the show's reach, does great things for everybody, lets me know you're listening, and honestly, it just helps make the show better overall. If you want to find out more, though, you can also subscribe and to the accompanying Brand Next newsletter. That's at brandnext.substack.com. You can find the link in the show notes. But listen, thanks so much for listening. Until next time, take care. Bye, everyone.